Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to another card making video for the Not Too Shabby shop. Today I'm going to be playing with this beautiful stamp set. It's called Bouquet of Happiness, exclusive from the Not Too Shabby shop. I'll be doing some quick and easy metallic watercolor to make this card. So let's take a closer look at this stamp set. It was part of the Valentine's box that was available in the month of February, but I feel like this is a really good stamp set to have in your stash to use anytime. I'm going to be using a piece of watercolor paper that measures 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. So a big card. This is a big image and I wanted to kind of have it be randomly stamped all over this background. So I'm using some clear pigment ink and stamping this in the opposing corners of this panel. I will ink it up 2 times just to make sure I have a really good ink coverage so that I can emboss this with some gold embossing powder. So I'm sprinkling that on and letting the excess fall into my coffee filter there that's in a whipped cream container. It's a really awesome tool. I use it all the time. And now I'm going to use my heat tool to melt that powder. And it will be now raised up and shiny and beautiful for this card. Now I'm going to take some of the smaller flower images from this set just to fill in some of the open spaces. I like to have my images when I'm creating my own background go off the edge of the paper. It gives it more of a symmetrical look and it kind of makes it feel like this was cut from like a bigger piece of paper. So I'm using the images on the edges to get that look. Now I'll emboss those just as I did before and they work perfectly, just how I had hoped. Now I'll melt those to finish it up, and then it's time to move into some watercoloring. I have my metallic watercolors from Altenew. I'm using the color Aqualicious, and I am not watercoloring my flowers. I'm going to leave those as they are, and I'm going to paint in and around the flowers. Again, the color is Aqualicious. This is like my favorite color, and I love the metallic sheen of it, and somehow it feels like there's a little bit of like a vintage vibe to this color. So I will be the first one to tell you I am no expert at watercoloring. I make cards and do these things because I have fun doing it. So I just want to enjoy the watercoloring and enjoy the process and have fun making this card. So what I experimented with was first laying down water and then painting over it. That was a little bit too loose for me, so I just found having the paint itself be pretty loose and wet was what worked best for me. Also, I did invest in a somewhat nice paintbrush from a local art store. I mean, I didn't pay a ton of money for this, but it's nicer than, you know, the kind that just come with things, and that really helped me achieve better results. And I love the handle of this brush. It's really nice to hold. So if you really want to maybe get a little better at watercoloring, think about your tools. This tool has really helped me. So I'm just going to go in and around this remaining flower over here, and I don't mind that there are places that are darker than others and lighter than others. Like, that's the charm of watercolor. So I'm loving how this is turning out. And by the way, this is inspired by a card I made for the another design team video that I did probably a year ago, maybe less, and I just loved the way that it turned out painting around the embossed flowers. So I had to do it again. When you find a technique that you love, you kind of just want to use it again and again, and this was one of those times. So there is the watercoloring. I'm going to let that dry while I bring out this love die. Now, this was a free gift that came with the Valentine's box. There were 2 different free gifts that came out with it, and this is the one that I got, and I'm going to die cut that from some gold mirror cardstock. I don't want this to have a Valentine's feel to it, so I'm going to use my scissors and remove the heart at the end of this die, but I am going to save it and use it for the inside of my card. So I'll just have the word love. All right, so then I'm going to add a sentiment that says, I miss you, that's all. And that is also from this same stamp set. I'm going to stamp that with clear pigment ink again and emboss it with gold powder. Now, if you are loving this stamp set and you're liking watercoloring, then you should totally check out the first video I did with this set. I'm going to link it right here in the top corner. If you want to click over and watch that, you can, and then come back and finish this video. Next, I wanted to show you with my super nice paintbrush, I couldn't get really good splatter. So let me show you the brush I love for splatter. It's this one, I call scraggly at the bottom. So I'm going to pick up some loose gold watercolor and splatter that using the edge of a window sheet. And that was the gold pearl color, and I really love how that turned out. Next, I dusted off this distressing tool that I've had for at least 100 years, and I am distressing the edge of this. I feel like this is what gives it that shabby chic look that I love. This color with the gold embossing, this torn edge look on the paper. I really love it. Even though I feel like my style is more cutesy, I love the feel of this card. Now, because this is a little bit warped, I wanted to make sure that it stuck down to my card base really good. So I added some double stick tape and I went all around the edges and put a little bit in the middle, and then I came in with my glue because good adhesion is so important to me. So I'm sticking that down to a card base with some cardstock I had in my stash that matches this watercolor pretty good. Next, I'm going to add my sentiment. I distressed the end of it, and I'm going to do the same exact thing because I'm sticking this to watercolor paper that has embossing on it. So doing the two forms of adhesive, it makes me feel secure and happy. So I'm doing it, and I decided I wanted to distress the other end, so I did that with the glue on it. It was fine, but it ended up that I hadn't cut it short enough. So this time, after I snip it down, it was too hard to get that tool in there. So I just used my fingernail and roughed up the edge, which is easy enough to do on a small area and on thinner cardstock than watercolor paper. Next, I am sticking down with just glue the word love, and then I'll come in and add some embellishments with these gold baubles from Trinity Stamps. Just putting them in and around my sentiment. I added 5 of them, and I feel like that really adds a nice finishing touch to the outside of the card. Now let's move on to the inside. I am using some sea glass ink from Concord and Ninth. I felt like it probably would match the watercolor on the outside, and it was pretty close. So I'm stamping that on a piece of vanilla cardstock, and then I'm going to trim around this. And you'll notice I stamped in the corner of my paper because I want this to be a corner accent for the inside panel of the card, and I can line it up flush with the right and bottom corner of the card. Next, I brought back my gold pearl metallic watercolor and splattered the inside of the card, and here is where I'm going to use those hearts. So the second heart is the fallout piece from this, and I just layered them together and thought it was a nice added touch. So I'll let that dry, and then my card is all done and ready to be mailed. I loved making this card. It's a quick and easy technique to do with flowers, and it gives such an elegant look. I hope that you'll give it a try. And if you're interested in any of the supplies I used, I have them all listed and linked for you in the description box below. I thank you so much for stopping by and spending some time with me. I love sharing my creations with you. I will be back again very soon with another stamping video just for you. So if you're new here, feel free to subscribe and ring the bell, and I will see you then. Happy stamping! Bye!